So today I'm going to be giving a complete tutorial over flying forts. So as many of you know, flying forts, there's a lot to go over. It changes forts a lot. You know, games usually last like an hour in this mod. So I'm going to try to keep this as brief as possible, but this video is probably end up going to be like half an hour or something. Alright, so the first thing I want to advertise is the Flying Forts community Discord. So you'll get a link to it on the Flying Forts Steam Workshop page. So if you want to know how to get there, the easiest way, just hop into Google, type in like Flying Forts Workshop or something along those lines, and you should get the Steam Workshop Flying Forts pretty easily, and then you could just click this link. Now once you go to this link, you'll go to Discord, and you know, if you don't have a Discord account, or you don't have a Discord app, or you just want to join this Discord as a guest, that's totally fine. I'll just put in like tutorial for now. So once you're in the Discord, even as like a guest account or whatever, you don't have to be active at all. You don't have to get a mic or anything like that, but you can get, you know, information, you can get roles, you get some announcements, like they do tournaments and stuff, and then you can find other people who are hosting games or want to play. You can get some replays to look at some fun stuff that happens. You can look at other people's designs if you want inspiration. You know, you can look at what cool maps are up. There's tons of stuff. There's some guides up here somewhere that might link you to videos like this, or just basic tutorial-y type stuff. So my main advice is go on the Flying Forts Discord, and you'll get all sorts of information and stuff, and you don't have to be active at all. You can just sign in as a guest like this. So if you don't already have Flying Forts just from being in a lobby of it already, you can download it from the workshop page. So you'll just be in Forts, you'll go to workshop, and you can type in, you know, Flying Forts, and you'll get to that same page, just in Steam now instead of just on the desktop. You can also look up Flying Practice, and this is me. So if you click on my name, you can get, these are all the mods and maps I've made for forts. But anyway, I would subscribe to these two maps. These are going to be what I'm using in the video, and I'm going to try to get you guys to kind of build along with me, because that's the best way to do this for you to actually learn. If you know, are just watching this video and you're not in a place where you can play on the computer right now or whatever, that's fine, but I would highly recommend going back to this video and watching parts of it while building along with me, because that's going to be the best way to learn. So if you subscribe to these two, that would be good. Now, if you go into multiplayer and you host a new lobby and you go to private, and it doesn't matter the name because it's going to be private, you'll get into a lobby that no one else can join. So this is where you can do a lot of practice. This is where you can build along with me. So I'm just going to select the Flying Practice Dogfight map for now. So I'm going to start off showing you balloons. So a balloon can hold about 2 boxes of double braced wood. This just to give you a very general idea. See how slowly it's falling. So it's about that much weight for one balloon. I'll show you something real quick. Here is what happens if I add a tarp. So these are the exact same ships. One has a tarp, one does not. If I delete this, because it's just because it's a little bit of cardboard, it'll obviously fly away very fast. If I delete this one with a tarp, it flies away a lot slower, because tarp has a lot of air drag, so it slows everything down, kind of like a parachute. It just helps you catch things. So always recommend at least one tarp. Here is anti-grav. So anti-grav can hold about, about 18 boxes. You see how slowly that is? But why can't I do anything with this ship? So in order to retain control of a ship after you disconnect it from your base, you have to add an explosive barrel. So with an explosive barrel now, if I delete I still have control. I can fire weapons off this ship. I can build stuff off this ship if I want to. And that would be a-okay. So, I'll go into a little bit about rotation. Well, first I'll add a tarp so that this is safe. So, if I have the anti-grav here instead, this end's going to be getting more lift, so it'll point like this. So, where you place your lift left to right matters for rotation and stuff. Also, if I place a lift down here and delete this one, you'll notice it'll fly upside down. So that's why, to make things the most stable, you always want your lift as high as possible on your ship and your weight as low as possible on your ship. So if you add like weight down here and balloons up here, you might notice it start to get really swingy like this, where it swings back and forth and it's really hard to control. So again, just to keep things as stable as possible, you want your lift as high up as possible and your weight as low down as possible. So another thing, anti-gravs are very strong. They're the same amount of lift as 10 balloons. So if I just add an anti-grav here, it really heavily deforms this, because this is just single brace. And if I add multiple, it probably even rip that up. So always have, you know, a fully cross braced, double braced, whatever you want to call it, where you have both struts. Sorry, you have your regular box and you have this extra strut here. So always cross brace if you're dealing with anti-gravs. Okay, so you have a general idea of about how much lift balloons and anti-gravs can take, but we want to do some more precise balancing. So when you build a ship, you always build this first row is what you're going to delete to launch your ship. So always leave this clear, and we're just going to double brace it so everything's completely stable. So if I build up, so I've built up pretty high, and I'll even add a few weights just so you can see more clearly what I'm talking about. So you'll notice as I add more weight, this wood is getting red. So you'll probably know this from vanilla forts, is that if you build up too high, your stuff will get red. If you build up even higher, add more weight, it'll start flashing, it'll collapse. So this redness of this wood is an indicator of how much weight is pressing down on it. So therefore, if we add a couple of anti-gravs, it'll be less red, because now there's less weight pushing down because the anti-gravs are pulling up. If we add a whole bunch of anti-gravs, then it'll turn blue, and even blue flashing. So this is the opposite. If I let this go right now, it would fly up into the ceiling. So if I get this a bit more under control, I add some tarps, I can see, again, it's kind of bouncing around, but I can see the wood is a little blue, I would say, in general. So if I launch this, it would probably start floating up, and it's hard to tell exactly how much it'd start floating up, so I'd probably have to catch it with some quickly putting down a bunch of weights and stuff. So if I replace this with cardboard, it's a lot easier to see exactly, because cardboard's a lot weaker. So for instance, if I added another anti-grav now, this cardboard glows really blue, sorry, because cardboard is really sensitive. So via that, once this settles down, and I'll add some more tarps so it'll settle down a little faster, I can get this until it's just a little bit blue, because we want it to have a little bit of lift, and then I'll delete all this, and then to add weight, I'll just kind of put some boxes down here. Is one of the easiest ways to add weight quickly. I could also slap weights down here. That's even faster, but sometimes you don't always have space, and when you do this, it gives you even more space to slap some more weights down if you want. So I'll go into propellers, and this little button, if you saw, it made the propellers face to the left. This button makes them face to the right, so that's with all weapons. That's how you control which direction they're facing. Say if I delete some of these tarps, I think the fort is rising a little bit. So say I just wanted to add a little bit more weight because I want to get this as totally balanced as possible. So if you add little boxes like this, and even just like one more strut if you need it, or even like if you want to do, if that's too much weight now, you can replace some of them with cardboard. This is how you do the very, very, very precise adding weight to your ship to balance it as evenly as possible. And remember, weight is down low, lift is up high. That'll keep you stable. So if you notice, with no tarps, if I start going with my propellers, this will actually go pretty fast. Whereas if I have a lot of tarps, like so, it'll slow down a lot quicker, it won't have as much momentum, and it will barely go at all. So, like I said, you want as many tarps as possible for up and down movement, but once you're ready to start going side to side, I would recommend, you know, deleting most of them, depending on how fast you want to go and how many propellers you have. This would be maybe just have one, and then if you're balanced, then it shouldn't be a problem, and you can go really fast. So I think this is about the basics of everything there is to know about flying forts. Here, most of my maps have this text box. So let's see, this says, oh yeah, so you can metal up your ship. Obviously, I would recommend metaling the outside like this. If you metal up, you know, inside here, it doesn't do much protecting, and it's just weighing down your ship, and also it means you can't place anything in this box because there's metal in the way. So for making ships, I would recommend, you know, boxes like this that are grid aligned side to side. So like one grid box, if you watch the grid in the background, is how big each of these are, and then just fully tall. Something like this, nice boxes that are consistent, will help get you the most consistent ships. And if you're going to metal, just metal up the outside. I will delete this so he can go up a bit while I'm talking about this. So yeah, that just says what to use. Explosive barrels control, about how much lift and weight. Stability with tarps. Oops, sorry. Movement with propellers that can be upgraded to jets. That's what I had. Balloons, anti-gravs at the top. You can rotate by moving them side to side. I've kind of gone over most of this stuff. Launch pad, you make it wooden, and then you can replace with cardboard later if you want to do finer tuning stuff, and you delete that with lots of reminder to have a barrel, a lot of tarps and stuff. And yeah, so this is tips, and I think I've gone over most everything. Also, one last thing I want to go over is, why don't you just immediately start your launch pad with cardboard? Well, if you start it immediately with cardboard, then if you add a lot of weight, this cardboard's really weak. So the more weight you add, the more you're going to collapse your launch pad. So usually you build one row of wood above your base, and that's what you're going to delete, and then you build your ship above it. And then at the end, if you want to fine-tune right before launch, you replace this with cardboard to get a better idea of how the weight or lift is acting on it. So that's all the basics. Now I'll hop into the other map, and that'll be good. So now I'm in my flying practice map. I want to be in team co-op. Again, I'm just going to have the commander off just to keep this as neutral as possible. You can do whatever you want. Now this map has 7 pre-built ships and a place to build your own here. So if you notice, it already has some lift and it has a lot of cardboard, and all this cardboard is red. This one is white. So this is to show you this is a perfectly balanced ship. So if you want to, you can delete all this and you'll just hover, and then from here you can mess with, you know, if you add lift to this side and weight to this side, you can tilt it. So yeah, just use this pre-built ship if you want to learn, you know, propulsion, firing weapons. You can mess with putting more doors on it. You can mess with adding weight. And this is your little practice ship. Obviously, if you ever blow the ship up, you can just restart the map, and this one will always be pre-built here. So that's for you to mess with. Now, all these ones are going to be your tutorial. So remember, you add anti-grav until this is no longer red, and then you can delete it to launch. And then I'll add some weights, or again, if you don't want to use the space in here, if you add wood quickly to the bottom, that'll add weight while also letting you have a place to do this, to add more weights here. So I want you to get all these ships. You can balance them with anti-gravs. You can balance them with balloons. Remember, one anti-grav is 10 balloons. So if you start adding balloons and you're up to like this many and you're still nowhere near balancing it, then just go ahead and delete them, and one anti-grav will basically give you the same amount of lift as all that. But yeah, that's that. So I want you to make all these ships fly in this map, and that'll be a good tutorial for you for balancing pre-built ships. Once you have that down, we can start making our own. So on here, I just want you to see if you can replicate one of these other ships. So you double brace that up, you build up, and sometimes the higher you build, the more you'll start to sway and stuff because you're putting a lot of weight. So I would recommend getting your tarps on your build as soon as possible. So say I'll just copy this, I think that's something like that. And so yeah, you get the idea. You can build this, copy it word for word, and again, if you have this balanced, then you should be able to balance this one, and then you can delete all these and you can launch it. And then once you do that, you can make your own ship from scratch. So you just do the same thing, you build up however many weapons you want, however many doors you want, you slap them on here, you add some, you have it all double braced probably, and then you just add some lift until this isn't really red anymore, and then you replace it with cardboard, and then you get the idea. You should, once you've mastered balancing these ships, you should be able to make your own, and using the launch pad technique, delete them and launch them. And just remember to have tarps, remember to have a barrel, remember your lift goes up at the top. For some of these ones also, a good tip is that you notice the anti-gravs on the right. That's because all of the weight's on the right. So remember, lift left to right matters. If I'm adding lift here, it'll collapse that side because this is where all the weight is. So just keep in mind that when you're building your ships. I'll get the fire off so it stops beeping at me. And yeah, this one has this text box here too, if you ever need a reminder. Once you get really good at making your own ships and balancing with cardboard, you can start trying to do it with wood and skipping the cardboard step. Cardboard, I want you to do for a while because it gives you an easy, really good idea about how to balance and how much weight there is. But when I make ships, unless I'm like making them in a testing kind of way, when I'm actually making ships in battle, I usually don't take the cardboard step. I usually just eyeball it off the wood. Unless I'm in a really tight space or something, then I'll need the cardboard to get it perfectly balanced before launching because I don't have enough room to go up. But in most Flying Forts map, you have all this room to go up. So just look at the wood. This is looking a little red. What happens if I add another anti-grav? It's looking a little blue. So say I'll just add some weights and then go. So something like that, just being able to quickly eyeball it and getting it. And now it's looking a little too red maybe in some places because this isn't symmetrical. So I think it's too much weight on the right side. This isn't a very good idea because I was just quickly doing this. But basic idea is once you get really good, you might be able to launch a ship completely without ever going to cardboard. And then of course if you have the tarps, you can balance it in the air, and you can delete those tarps once you're ready to go side by side, but you generally keep at least one. I'll go over a little bit about how to dodge. So say a nuke's coming at you or something's coming at you, you can quickly put an anti-grav down, get some height, and delete it. And as long as you have the tarps, you should slow down pretty quickly. You can add some temporary weights just to kind of slow down your upwards movement a little bit if you want. Or if an nuke's coming at you or weapons are coming at you here, you can delete an anti-grav, just have it selected and ready to place pretty quickly, and see those tarps get in the way. So be aware of stuff like that where tarps kind of move around depending on where you're going. So stuff like that is how you can move your ship up and down. That's good to be able to do juggle anti-gravs. I think that's about it for this. So I'm just going to go back to the first map I was in, Flying Practice Dogfight, and show you a little bit about this map, just as a little advertisement of my map, basically. This has safe zone here, safe zone here. So what that means is on Team 1, I can build a ship, and as long as it's in here, Team 2 can't get me, because this blue zone doesn't let projectiles through, so you can't shoot out or into this area. And this blue zone is also a hazard for Team 2. So if Team 2 tries to go into this, they'll just crash into it. Likewise, if Team 1 tries to go in here, they'll just crash into this wall as if it were solid. So yeah, so Team 1 can build ships freely in here, get them as built as they want without worrying about, you know, their base. Their base is indestructible basically because it has no splash zones, so it would be very hard for you to drop a ship on here and blow up your own base. Basically, you're free to mess around, and of course unlimited resources, so you're free to mess around, build your own ships in here, and you can go out in the middle, fight with the enemy in the middle. This is just a good map for messing around, getting planes out. So I would recommend maybe getting a friend in this map and trying it out. Obviously, since you can't get to the enemy's bases, there's no end to the game, so the host just has to end it after a while. It's not really an objective-based game. It's just get some ships out, get into the middle, have a little dogfight in this area without having to worry about the enemy attacking you while you're building your ship. So this is a good one for when you're messing around and you're not quite ready. Otherwise, once you get good, you can probably just play the regular Flying Forts maps. Just be aware, you know, you might have enemies rushing you or whatever while you're building a ship. This map is subject to change, but I'll also advertise my Expert Challenge Testing copy map. Name, work in progress, obviously. This is a good map if you just want a single player challenge. You have to balance your ship, you probably have to add some more doors and stuff, and you're facing off against basically a whole lot of enemy weaponry, and it'll change as it goes. Oh yeah, and you're not given many tarps to begin with actually, so I should probably add some tarps on here. And yeah, basically you're hit hard, and this is a good one if you just want to get good at tanking and building in the air and taking a lot of hits from bases. I don't know, it's just fun to get into this on single player. Probably put the AI on hard if you want a real challenge, stuff like that. And that's it. I think after this tutorial, if you do all this stuff, it showed you how to go through and build bases and build flying forts. So again, I would recommend following along, building with the tutorial. And again, just some of these maps can help you when you're starting out, if you just want a single player challenge, or if you want a challenge with a friend where you don't have to worry about bases blowing up. And I cannot recommend enough the Flying Forts Discord, just to get in a community of people that really are interested in talking about flying forts all the time, and hosting tournaments, and just have some good designs and maps and guides for you there. And that is the end of the tutorial.